Our third presenter is Emily Orna, and last year she was in the Johnston School District, and when I asked her, knowing that she had moved to Waukee High School this year, I was kind of shocked that she said she would do it, because I know how it is to change buildings. It's like you're a brand new teacher again. So kudos to you for agreeing to present for us. Give Emily your attention, if you would, please. Waukee High School Spanish teacher.
Good morning. I thought I'd start with a quote. This is kind of goes back to my personal beliefs when it comes to technology. And at Johnston, they have such a strong tech influence, and the tech director is so great. So we had embedded technology throughout the day. And you know, as a teacher, when you get to those, you're like, oh gosh, just something else to fit in the day. So, and I'll translate this, but this is kind of the mind frame that I had to have anytime I'm approaching a new technology. To achieve something that you've never done before, you have to do it for the first time, pretty much is what it says. So that's kind of how I feel about technology. If I hear something new, I'm like, okay, I just need to jump in, give it a try, and then kind of see how it works out in my classroom. The hardest part for me when I was thinking about what to talk about today was the collaboration piece. When I started using technology with my students, and I taught middle schoolers before, it kind of was a digital babysitter. And I hate to say that, but I would go to the lab, I would give them, this is the website, this is the practice, and go and do. And sometimes I would get feedback on like, how many did you get right? So the collaboration piece is so hard, and that's something that I'm continuing to work on as I use technology, is kind of being more purposeful with and making sure that it's collaborative. I have, to kind of get everyone involved, I have a poll. So if you want to, either with your device or your website, kind of pull in your answer to this question. Question is, how much Spanish do you speak? So you can either text in, you would text Emily Orna 892 to 37607, and once you're in, it'll say, record your answer, and your answer is going to be A, B, C, or D. If you want to go online, you can go to pollev.com/EmilyOrna892. Yay, it's working. For those that aren't Spanish speakers, A says, I'm a Spanish speaker. I'm Hispanic. B says I speak Spanish. C is a little bit. And D, you can see I don't speak Spanish. So this year I'm teaching Spanish 1 and 2. I'm at Waukee High School, so I have 10th, 11th, and 12th graders. But I like that in the room there's some other languages as well. So far the majority of the room here speaks Spanish. And another third or so speak a little bit. This website is polleverywhere.com. It's free. It is very easy to quick make another poll. The kids get interested when they see, oh, I get to text in my answer. My teacher's going to let me text her. They kind of like that to text in. I'm going to show you one other example before I move on from Poll Everywhere. But the function that I like best from Poll Everywhere is an open-ended response. So this would be limited response. I say you can pick A, B, C, or D, pick one of the above. And then we can either talk about the answers, they can talk at their table. But this is not very interactive and collaborative, but it's kind of cool for like a quick answer. So we're going to do one other. I'm going to kind of exit out of this one and go to my next one. The next one is open-ended. Okay, so this question says, what is the ideal student like, one word? I mean, we could think about, talk about that for an hour. But so one word, what's the ideal student like? So go ahead and, again, you can text in. And then once you join, you text your message or, again, online. And this is called a word web. And I like this because if someone types in the same answer as someone else, the word gets bigger. So the most common response is the biggest on the screen. Did I call it a word cloud? I think that's what it's called, is a cloud. And then the least mentioned shows up smaller. So I think this is pretty cool. On my end, on the VoiceThread, on the Poll Everywhere website, I can go and look at the responses after I've given a poll. But I've always thought it'd be neat to do something like this, like a web, and then print it and post it in my classroom. I used this for the first week of school. We did just, first couple days, why study Spanish. And then the kids polled in their one-word response, why they want to study Spanish. And I mean to print it off, so that's something that I'm going to do with Poll Everywhere. So far, the ideal student is motivated and curious and engaged. And someone texted me in because I'm the ideal student. Thank you. I'm on the side. That's really cool. I like that hardworking, lifelong, creativo. Some people are responding in Spanish. That's cool. Yeah, I suppose there could be something like that where you could give them a Spanish prompt and they could respond with a Spanish word. Como eres, they could respond with their strongest personality trait. Okay, so I'm going to leave that open. I'll go back in a minute to see if there's more people that have added. Before I do anything else today, on the information in the middle of your table, it has my blog at my school. If you guys want to go to that, it's blogs.waukeeschools.org/eOrna. And so this has the link to the presentation, the slideshow that I'm going to use, the VoiceThread link that I'm going to see if we can interact with a little bit towards the end, and then the questions and comments. There's also on the information on your table, a tiny URL, and that has my presentation on it also. Once you get here, if you would click on the questions and comments, and it literally says questions, comments. I'm someone that as I'm listening, I'm like a note taker. I want to write it down right away if something comes to mind so I don't forget it. So if you want to leave this Google Doc open kind of throughout the presentation, and any question, anything that comes to mind or a comment, just post it in there, and then in the end when there's questions, I'll just come back and kind of refer to some of these. I have learned so much today already from the other two presenters that I posted some questions that I have down at the bottom. So I want to know more about Yabla. I don't know anything about it. Is it listening? Is it speaking? Or what is it all about? This is something, ePals, that I have on my information that I was going to talk about today, and it was kind of just a personal goal for me to try to use ePals between the beginning of the school year and now, but I haven't yet. So if anyone in here uses ePals and wants to give me some info, that'd be good. VoiceThread alternatives. I currently use VoiceThread, and I've kind of fought it for multiple years, and I finally am at a point where we're happy with the VoiceThread. So I'm going to talk a little bit about VoiceThread today, but if there's any other alternatives, I think we've heard some other really good ideas today. You can note them there. And then WeVideo, that sounded interesting. I want to know more about that. And then Google Classroom is something that I don't use, but I'd like to.
We don't have editing rights to that.
Oh, thank you. Okay, try now. Yes? Thank you. Okay, here's some things I'm going to be talking about today. There's the link to the Google Doc where you can kind of post your questions. So I'm going to talk about Poll Everywhere. I just did a little bit. I'm going to talk about Plickers. I'm going to talk about some things that I like with Google Domain, and then finally VoiceThread. And then at the end, depending on how much time, I have some websites that just kind of as I'm learning and as I'm trying to meet our building goal for this year, which is listening sources. I'm going to share my favorite sources so far, websites for authentic listening and reading sources. And again, if you have some that you want to share with me, that'd be great. Here's how I kind of mentally broke down the topics that I'm going to talk about today. So of these 5 things, I kind of broke them down least time to most time. So if you have 5 minutes, you can do a poll everywhere. You can even create a poll and do a poll everywhere in 5 minutes. They don't take much time at all. Plickers, I'll show you what those are in a minute. Those take, you can spend 5 minutes on them. You can spend 30 minutes on them. It's up to you. For middle schoolers, less time. 10, 15 minutes really is all that you want to spend. Google Domain, again, 10 minutes. You could spend 60 minutes on that, kind of depending on what your purpose is for using it. Google Maps, I like to spend more time with it because depending on how many people are jumping on the Google Maps at the same time, it could be slower. And plus, the image takes a few seconds to, gain resolution. But I love Google Maps. VoiceThread that I'm going to talk about at the end takes the most time, but it's also kind of down below. It's the most collaborative. So I really like VoiceThread. I think as we tinker today, it's worth using. Okay, we're going to try the Plickers here. So you have, I passed out before I started a card that kind of looks like this. Does everybody have one of those? Okay. Essentially what you do is you post a question to the class. And let me just explain what it is, and then we'll come back to it maybe in a minute. So my question is, how far did you travel to get here today? On your card, everyone has a different number. So what I do with my students is I set up a class so that like Amy Adams is always number 1. So every time she logs in her answer for number 1, she sees Amy Adams. And then I just do it alphabetically. So everyone has a number. And everyone has their own different image for their grid card. And you'll notice that on each side of the grid it says A, B, C, or D. So if you wanted to say, my answer is A, I did 5 miles or less, you hold up your card and you want A facing towards the top and you hold it up. And essentially what I do, and here's what I'm having problems with. It would happen at a tech conference, wouldn't it? Sure. Tech problems. I mean, of course. So essentially what this does is you have to have 2 devices to use Plickers. So you have to have a device that you're projecting, and then you have to either have an iPad or the app on your phone. And I think I'm going to get it here, actually. Yeah. Ta-da! Okay, what it does is it activates the camera on my phone. So like, here's the teacher view. You're probably looking at me right now. So the teacher view, it just activates your camera. And so what it does is, so I turn it around, I look like I'm taking a picture of the class, and the camera will scan in each individual grid. And once I get your number, go ahead and hold up your card. So again, if your answer was A, put A up, B, put B up, C, or D. And then look up here for your number to color in as a check mark. And that means that I got your answer. And I tell students that if you buzz in and you change your answer, you can buzz in again and turn in and be like, oh, never mind, I'm B. You can buzz in again. So.
We're really spread out, too, which doesn't make it easy.
Oh, it's okay. And the only way that it won't let me scan your card is if your finger is over part of the grid. So once you see your number as a check mark, you can put your card down, and if I didn't get it yet, keep it up. A lot of you traveled far today. Wow, did I get yours? Okay. Did I get yours today? Okay. 4 people were within 5 miles. Oh, 5 people. Is that everybody? Except for 19 and 27? Okay. What I can do on my end is for this particular question, there's no right answer. So when I reveal the answer, it just shows what each person picked as far as A, B, C, D. But if I was giving like there was a correct answer, you would see that yours would be green if you got it correct and red if you didn't get it correct. And then I could also, and kids kind of like this, I don't know why, they like to kind of see on the graph who picked what. And then if I reveal the answer, the 1 bar shows up as green. I like to do the graph if I don't want students to feel bad. If I want to say, look, 15 people got it right because the right answer was D, but I don't want to show them all the names and who picked C, A, B, and C. So I kind of like the graph for that, but sometimes I'll do the students if it's a self-check or if there's no right answer. Let's do one more. So the way that you change the question is you change it on your device, your iPad. Okay, so this one has a correct answer. And if you want to just be silly and buzz in as the wrong answer just to see what happens, go ahead and do that. Oh, you know what I have to do? Before I start, I have to click Hide Answer. Okay. Because I wouldn't want you to know what day it actually is today. Get everybody's?
Where do you keep the cards?
Just like on a shelf in my room.
So the kids just grab them?
I have you can print off your class list. I can show that in a minute. Up at the top, there's classes. And so I know when Amy Adams comes in, I just look and I give her one. So I have like the list in front of me and I just pass them out. But yeah, they could essentially just get their own. So I'm going to reveal the answer. Oh, volunteer number. What number is this? Picked C, that was the wrong answer. It's not Wednesday. But again, you can show the graph and reveal the answer. It looks like that. So this was on my low end for amount of time it takes. So what I have is each of my classes that I teach, we teach on the block schedule, so I have 3 classes. I just enter the names. So here's my block 2. So you can see those are the numbers. And then when I want to say, okay, I want to ask them a question today about personality. So I want to say, ¿Cómo eres tú? That's our current learning. And then I'll tell them, choose the one that most best describes you. Okay, and then I save it. And then what I do on my device. Oh, I'm sorry, last thing. After you create a question, down at the bottom it says, what class do you want it to? Do you want your second block class to have that question? You guys were the example. Do you want them to have that question? So I could, okay, the example has that question, and then now I have it on my device. And then here I click Live View, and that's where I get to see this. And then that's the question I just created, and then I just scan. So it doesn't take too long at all. Up at the top here where it says Cards, is where you print your cards. It prints 40. So if you have big classes, you can get up to 40. But it's really neat. Sometimes I'll go back and take formative assessment data and record. Sorry, I keep hitting this. Record like how many questions Amy Adams got right out of 10. Or sometimes we'll just do it. And after a question, we'll just kind of talk through the common errors. And then we'll move on. So sometimes I take data and sometimes I don't. Does anyone else in here use Plickers? Or does anyone want to share another way that they use them?
I don't use it, but I have a question how it works. It's set up there like volunteer 1, volunteer 2, volunteer 3. So when you have that number assigned to a student, will it actually say their student name? Because when all the answers came up, I had a hard time tracking my answer because it was no longer showing the number.
Gotcha. You decide what you want to call when you create your class, what you want to call them. So I just do names. So this is my third block, Spanish 2. So if I were to pull up a question from their class, okay, so this one says, okay, let me make it live view. So this says, if you bumped into someone, what would you say? A, B, C, or D? So now they get to see their name. So you can change, you decide how they want to view it. Yeah, it was hard for me to follow too, because I think it was too long of a name. It cut off, like if your number was 16, sometimes it just had the 1, so the names work pretty good. Okay, we talked about this. This is what it looks like when you add a new question. You can do either multiple choice or true false. That's the only thing about this. There's no open end. When you click on reports up at the top on my screen, it says reports. I can look and see like how many people picked A, how many people picked B. So 22 out of my 24 students buzzed in. So for some reason, Alden didn't buzz in. That probably means either he was absent or maybe he had his finger over the grid and he didn't buzz in correctly. And then if I were to, I could scroll down and see Alexis picked B. She got the right answer. She was card 25. Blake got A. He got it wrong. And then so if I wanted to use it for formative data, that's what the report looks like. And did I say it's free? Here's another example of what a report looks like. This one said which family member can you not have? So for this particular one, there were 2 correct answers. Hopefully, my high school students don't have an hijo. If you don't know what that means, that's a son. And so they were like, what? You can't, no. No, none of you, I don't want you to have an hijo. And Nieta C was also the other answer because that's a granddaughter. So you can have multiple correct answers. Okay, we're going to go on to Google Domain, but if you have any other questions or comments, go back to that Google Doc and post them there, and we'll get to those. Google Domain just has such a variety. Why would I use this? It has really good access between the teachers and the student. I could create something with Google Doc and share it with my students, and they can collaborate on their end. They could create something on their end, share it with me. So the reason why I would use anything with Google, it's just really easy. At Johnston, every student had their own Google Domain address within the school. So it was really easy. If I created a doc and I wanted like these 5 kids to be shared in on the doc, I just click share, and you type in those 5 names, and then they have access. And then that was good for differentiation too, because I could create 3 docs and maybe have different levels of activities. But sometimes I say, hey, today you're going to be creating a slideshow with your group of 3. When you're done, just share it with me, and then it saves having to turn it in. It's really easy. So here's some examples of how I've used that. So Google Slides, what I've used this for most recently is I post a question to the class, or I say, you post a question, something you're interested in. Let them research, let them use their website, their other sources, and then they're going to share information with their peers. So a student created this question, do Spanish schools have PE class? And then what they did is they researched, and as you can see, each student had their own slide for the slideshow. And then they went back and added what they learned about it to other people's slides. So there's 2 ways that they did that. One is they just posted the answer right on the slide, which is fine. So Bailey just said, yes, they do. Darby said they have PE, but they also have some options, like they go swimming, there's a pool. And we were on this school's webpage. So we were kind of going around and looking at like what are their classes, what are their extracurriculars. So they were like looking at this picture of the pool and going back and saying, I saw this pool, I think they use it for PE. You can also just add a comment. So that's what I like Google Slides for. Google Docs, I like this for any kind of collective story writing or questioning. So if we're practicing questions, they can go into a Google Doc, ask each other the questions in the target language and see what kind of information they can come up with, or do a collective story. This particular example I have up here, when the students came into class, they each got a piece of paper, and they were each a victim in a car crash, but a different person. So someone was the driver of the car, someone was the passenger of the car. So each person got like, you're the in the target language. You were the driver of the car. This is your perception. It happened at this time. This was your injury, etc. The next person says, you were the passenger. This is what happened to you. This is what you saw and felt. The next person was the police officer. The next person was the driver of the van, and then the next person was etc. So their task was to create a cuento colectivo, a collective story as a group. And I told them, only in Spanish. You have to kind of figure out what was everyone else's point of view of the accident and try to get the most information for what really happened for this car accident in your story. So they had to see if they could get time of day. So the person that knew the time of day when it happened, they typed it in here. And then the group as a whole, so there was 5 of them, had to kind of collaborate and see if they could put it into a paragraph. So this was like, for grammar, it was like the preterite and imperfect paragraph type thing. So they had to go through and tell their story. So that was just one example of how I've used Google Docs. Google Forms, I'll start with this one. Google Forms I like for just a quick test or a formative assessment. So this is an example of a quiz that the students get. It just, because they're connected to Google, I can embed this in an email from me, and then they just go through and take it. This was over the imperfect. And then at the bottom, they click Submit. And one thing I've learned about Google Forms is if you don't have a button that says, what's your name? You don't know whose name it is. So I've made that mistake multiple times. So then this other slide is what the answers look like. So you have a timestamp. The name is at the end, because this is where I made the mistake. I had to make sure, what's your name before you take the quiz. So the name's at the end. And then here's all the answers. The thing that I don't like about Google Forms is there's no instant feedback for the kids, so they can take the quiz, submit, and they won't know how they did instantly or maybe till the next day. The other thing I'm not sure about that I still want to work on is how do I best tell them what they missed? Because if I see, Alec, and I see he didn't turn any of his adjectives into the feminine form, I didn't know what was the best way for me to communicate that back to him. So I like Google Forms. It's quick feedback. It's individualized, easy, but harder for me to give feedback.
I would say one thing that I do, it's kind of general feedback, but I sometimes cover up their, drag my window so it covers the names.
Oh.
That as a class, hey, everybody got this one right, but look, a few people were missing this one. Just kind of point out common errors.
Nice. Did everybody, and let me repeat that. No, she said sometimes what she'll do is she'll take this feedback and she'll cover up the name or drag it off the screen, and then they'll just look for common mistakes as a class. That was really good, yeah.
There's also a add-on. It's called Flubaroo, and it doesn't give you specific feedback, but it can tell kids whether they got the answer correct or not right away. So it's just an add-on to this for Google Forms. So
would you make me a note in that doc?
Yep.
Learning new things. I love it. Are there any other ways that people use any Google domain that they want to share something that they do? I'm not an expert by any means. I just try something new, and if it works, I stick with it, so I'm a learner.
I saw that you were going to look into
To Google Classroom,
Yeah.
that will give the feedback right away.
Okay.
Once you check it. Yep.
Add that to my mental to-do list. Okay, last thing I'm going to talk about today is VoiceThread. The reason why I would do this is the students can add a written audio or video comment to a graph, a video, a picture, whatever. So what I like about this is the image or the graph or the video can vary. You can have students respond to a variety of media. And the students really like that they can have choices. Once I show you the screen in a second, my Spanish 2 kids last year, they were taking their final, and so I uploaded from my Google Slides, it's really easy to do, a series of, it was like disaster pictures. So the beginning of the disaster, what happened and where did it happen, and then what were the damages, and then what was the outcome. So they had the slideshow, and what they had to do is tell the story of the disaster. And the grammar was the preterite and the imperfect. And some kids, and I'll show you what this looks like in a minute, they have this new function, they just updated it this year, where they can, VoiceThread will call their cell phone number. And when they pick up, they will say, record your comment. So what they would do, the shyer kids who wanted to still add an audio or a video, but they didn't want to sit in the lab and have everybody else listen, they would type in their phone number, and then they would take their phone and run out into the hallway. And then it would call them, and they'd say, leave your message. And then they still could leave their message, same as everybody else. But so for those shy students, they loved that they had that option. And a lot of people picked that option. Kind of took a little bit of the stress off. And this is also what I love, and I'm trying to get my students to do more of this, but we're not one-to-one, so they don't have a computer access all the time, and it's not always an iPad. It might be a desktop. They can draw on the screen and at the same time. So there's also a link on my blogs, but everyone go ahead and go to this site, and let's see. We'll see if everyone can make a comment on the student end first, and then we can kind of play around on the teacher end. I'm just going to kind of walk around and confirm that this is the right link. One thing about VoiceThread is to use it, you have to log in. So I think once you click here, you should see an image of the Day of the Dead. Yes. Before you can comment, it's going to make you create an account. So it's really easy to create an account. I would recommend doing it. I just tell my students, log in and with whatever email you use regularly. So if you get to the picture with the Day of the Dead, go ahead and log in. And then probably what you might have to do is paste the link back in the browser, and then it'll take you back to the picture of the skeleton, and then you can comment. I'll give everyone a minute to kind of get there, and then I'll talk about the options for responding. Just making sure everyone can get in. It's always like a little bit of a process when you have to register for something. So what the students see is exactly what you guys are seeing is this skeleton. What the teacher sees, or whoever, the students can create this as well, which is something else I like about it, that students can kind of take ownership, and then, after maybe they comment on something you made, they can create their own. So these are 4 ones that I've created. So for Day of the Dead Conference, there are 3 slides, and down in the bottom right corner is the button to click to the next slide. And you can create multiple slides. You can do pictures, video. These are just pictures. If you hover at the bottom by the plus sign, these are your options for how to comment on the slide. I tell the students the first time through to try different ways, just so you know the options. And I make them all do an audio, which they always get nervous. But I'm like, you just try the audio, because it's a really neat way to get the speaking in a foreign language classroom. It's always kind of a challenge to get to everybody. So if you click record an audio, it's going to ask you, can it allow you to use your microphone? I always say yes, or else you can't add anything. It'll count down 3, 2, 1. And so now it's recording me talk about the picture. At the bottom where it has that red crayon, you can click whatever color, and you can record what you previously know about Day of the Dead. So what you know is that the skull has to do with Day of the Dead. The symbolism has to do with people that come back during that holiday to visit with the relatives that are in this life. And then when you're done, you click stop recording. About the picture, it'll play it back. I'm going to cancel. I hate hearing my own voice. But then the students would save, and then on the side where you see this car, someone already commented. So what the students get to see on their end is everyone else in their class has a comment either on the left side or the right side. So this is good too for information sharing. They can leave a comment about what they know about Day of the Dead, and then they can listen to what other people commented. So this person left a text comment. So the way you would do that at the bottom is you would click ABC, and you can just type. The microphone would be speaking, and the microphone is where you get the colored pencil, and you can color on it or draw an arrow and mention something that you're speaking about. The telephone one is the one that calls your phone. It says enter your phone number and then it calls you. That's kind of fun. And then video, it can activate your video camera. So here's me talking about Dia de los Muertos, which means Day of the Dead. And then once I click save, it adds my comment to the side. So what I would tell students maybe the first time through is on each slide, leave your choice of comment. You can leave audio, you can leave video, you can leave text. It would make a cool tattoo, yeah, you're right. If you just push play at the bottom, notice that if you just start playing, it's going to go through everybody's comment if you're going to the slide for the first time. So it'll say, first person said this, first person said this, next person, there's my video saying that. Ooh, 3 levels to the altar. This is on the second picture. I'm going to leave a voice comment on the second slide. What I like to see is the, oops. Had a problem with my microphone. There is pan de muerto here on the altar, which means dead bread. And actually, I think that's it right there also. There is that's all I'm going to talk about for VoiceThread. Let's go back and see questions. Techniques for organizing my email or drive with so many kids. I guess for both of those, I just create separate folders. And once students, if everyone's like mass turning in something to me on one day, I'll create a folder and all of their drives will go into one folder with things, kids sharing things with me. I don't have a great answer to this. I just have a huge shared with me folder on my Google Drive. Does anyone else have anything they want to add on for organization?
I've been really using the Google Classroom because it automatically creates those folders in there for you. And so even if you do something where it creates like a link, maybe they created their own voice thread and it wasn't for the whole class or something, they can upload that link or upload a link to the YouTube video they've made. And so it's really nice if you create the Google Doc, like an old school worksheet, let's say, you always have access to that. And so you can see when they've copied and pasted in, or if they worked on it Saturday, Sunday, Monday, the whole week, or just 20 seconds. You can see all of that too if you're the one who's originally created it. So Google Classroom's really nice about organizing that for you. So that's something I like.
Thank you. Awesome.
Another thing that I've done to organize what I get in from students is I just created a separate email account. So I took my name, Jason Noble, and turned it into lonebanjos@gmail.com. And so I'll just tell my students, this goes to Lone Banjos, and then that's all I use that for. And usually, I have one class doing it at a time. I'll go through, correct them, clear it out, and it's ready to go. And so that helps because I was putting them in my school email and that kind of got messed up. The only caution I would say is that then sometimes students will send me messages at that, and I'll be like, I didn't get it, because I only check it when I have something to check.
Thank you. That's a great idea. Does anyone in here have good success with using iCloud for students sharing their work with you? Okay. I'm just reading through all the comments people left for me. Thank you. Yabla, you can watch videos with subtitles. Hide one or the other, use slow motion. Oh, that looks cool. I need to look into this Flubaroo also. A couple websites I'm going to share. And then I'll take any other questions and we can just kind of explore other websites. These are other websites I found helpful. Some of them I'm at the beginner stage. I'm trying to learn about as far as authentic sources. One's called Fluent U. It's websites, I don't know if they're all authentic, but there's videos and they each are tied to a vocabulary topic, a grammar topic, and the kids can kind of listen in. I don't know if you can control speed. That's one that I'm at the beginner stage with. And I know that some of the videos are blocked because there's a free version and a paid version. So is there anyone who uses Fluent U that wants to weigh in on it? It looks really cool. I'm going to experiment with that a little bit more. There's videos I found that it's like, oh yeah, this supports this grammar topic or this vocab, so I'm going to look more into that. This second one I'm actually going to pull up. A coworker of mine came over the other day. She goes, hey, have you done SpanishListening.org? And I was like, no. And my goal is listening, so I'm going to click on this and show you what it looks like. And so I did it in my class the other day, and it went really smoothly. So let me go back to the original SpanishListening.org. Okay, so if I scroll down, it has people from all different Spanish-speaking countries for me. And I don't know if it has French. I saw there's one French teacher. I'm not sure what other languages. And then they give a rating based on their rate and clarity of speech. So like beginner, I might use in my Spanish 1 and 2 because they speak really slowly. Easy to understand, intermediate, and advanced. So if I click on this girl who's a beginner, and since I have lower levels, I'll probably do that. At the top is a question that they ask her or that she poses herself. So this one says, would you like to have a big family in the future? And so she responds to that question. So this one's 47 minutes,
Hola, mi
seconds,
nombre es
not
Sorie y
minutes.
la pregunta de hoy es, ¿te gustaría tener una familia grande en el futuro? Personalmente, sí. Me gustaría tener una familia grande, muchos hijos. Pero la verdad es que económicamente suena un poco difícil. Los hijos cuestan mucho dinero. Educación, ropa, comida, hogar. Bueno, si no tengo que pensar en estas cosas, probablemente yo tendría 6 hijos incluso. Creo que es muy bonito cuando tú creces con otros hermanos y hermanas. Aprendes mucho de ellos.
So down at the bottom is her transcript. So the way I used it is I posed the question at the top to my class before they saw the video. They wrote their answer and responded. How would I respond? They saw the video and then kind of reacted to it. And then I showed them the script afterwards, and they kind of decided, what did I think I heard the first time, and what did I hear the second time? And if you scroll down even more, so these are all the other questions that this particular beginner girl has answered. So like if I'm teaching about artists, for example, I might be interested in them asking, who's your favorite artist? So that could be something I could attach to my content. And this looks like something I'm going to use in the future. Easy to attach a 1-minute video and fit it in anywhere. So that's what I like about that. Colby.edu just has like grammar exercises, but what I like about it is there's a particular section that has culture readings, and let's see if I can find that. That's not the website. I might come back and take a second and look that up in a minute, but Colby has, they have readings related to a culture topic, so they have,
Go back to Colby.edu. Go to home.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you so much. So the whole right side has like different grammar that you could tie it to. So I'm doing direct object pronouns. They have some grammar help, but this is what I was talking about. So if I wanted to do like La Fiesta de San Fermín in Pamplona, so if I click on that, where did it go?
Did you have to click on the picture?
Okay, this particular one I haven't done before, but it has a audio, I think, that goes with it, and then at the bottom, some closed activities that have to do with what I just heard or what I just read. Some of them are reading activities. Like Ofrendas for Day of the Dead. This one has a song that goes along with it. And again, kind of a closed activity. You can click on particular vocab if you want. Here's one here called Planeta Digital 360. What you can click on here are different places. The only one I've done is the school. So I don't know what other places you could do, but it lets you kind of have a virtual tour. So I would use this when I was talking about like what do classrooms look like in Spain, or like if I were teaching the vocabulary about school. So it'll pull up the front of the school, I think. And then these arrows say, where do I want to go if I want a tour? So there's the entrance. And then it says, where do I want to go from there? I want to go in here. So then this kind of just gives you a virtual tour. So let's go in there. English class, let's go in English. And this is what an English class would look like in the 360. So I kind of thought that was cool, just to get to see it firsthand. I always like to see, like, what do they have in an English class in a foreign Spanish-speaking country, but it's kind of like the flip-flop of what I do. And the last two on here are two blogs that I just have kind of been stealing from. They're two Americans, I think they're both girls, and they're both living and teaching in Spain, and they're just kind of recording about their daily life and how everything's going. So those are kind of cool. I'm going to just quick check and see if there's any other questions. There's one question about, and I'll just kind of refer this to someone else, Google Classrooms will give feedback right away. Does anyone want to weigh in on that one?
They get an email notification as soon as you check their work, and you can put in those comments, about the feminine, you know what I mean? You said that one student was consistently showing that, and you can also link resources inside your comment, give them a link to a resource to make corrections, and then return it back to you after they've corrected it all within Google Classroom. So,
cool.
Yep.
I'm going to have to try that for sure. If there's no other questions, that's all I have.
Wonderful.
Thank
Would you
you.
give her a nice round of applause, please? As I mentioned before, we do have those resources that are available to you. Pass the word along to other people in your buildings about the other TIC sessions that are coming up this year. I think we have 9 this year, which is more than we've had in the past. And there will always be a live feed. This is something that we're kind of moving ahead with. One thing I also want to invite you to, in the afternoons, we have Tech Integrationist PLN. So I know some of the people that are here typically stay in the afternoon. It's for people that integrate technology in their buildings, kind of the lead people in the buildings on that. And we kind of come here in the afternoon to have conversations and learn and share resources together. So you're welcome to join us for that. And again, recommend that to others if there are people in your building that you think maybe should know about it. Any other thoughts to add? Thank you very much. Yes, if you would please, we would love to get your feedback. Here is the link right up here. It's bit.ly/TIC eval form, and it should be pretty quick. If you would give us feedback, we would really appreciate that. Help us to grow.
This session and our next session, they are two brand new sessions, so we are really glad that we had this many people show up. Our next session is preschool to second grade, because we know that's often a group that gets left out of the typical PD. So if we invite you guys, if you know anybody in your districts who would be interested, we do have about 30 or so people signed up so far. No, wait, not that many, maybe like 20. And so definitely spread the word to those districts, and thank you.
We had one last announcement. Jason wanted to remind you about an upcoming conference, was it?
Yes, just one more plug for the IWLA conference, the 9th and the 10th at downtown Marriott. And another thing I wanted to make everybody here aware of, if you weren't, we've really kicked it up a notch on our social media, posting a lot of good stuff, a lot of helpful stuff. I see there's been some stuff posted while we were here, thanks to our social media guru, Elizabeth Dentlinger. But like our Facebook page, if you just go to Facebook, the actual address is facebook.com/Iowa World Language Association, all jumbled, all smushed together. But that's kind of where we generate everything. But we're on Twitter, we're on Pinterest, we're working on getting on Instagram. And also, if any of you are interested, we need some social media helpers. Like if you're interested in helping out with the social media for IWLA, talk to either Elizabeth or myself, and we'll help you get plugged in, because we have a lot of stuff. But we're really trying to keep the conversation going even after this. So love to see you at the conference. If you can't make the conference, get plugged in with our social media, and we can keep the conversation going that way.
Thank you again so much for coming, and we hope you join us next go around. Take care.